Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles Sabanson, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment. And we'll give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see it. And today we got a show that's going to get some people talking. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel here. So, as you guys know, the number one story right now in the NBA is Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points in that Fugazi game against the Washington Wizards, and you got LeBron fans jumping out the window, coming to defend Bam Adebayo like Master Splinter out there in Chicago. He know who he is. Yeah, you heard me, Master Splinter. That's what I'm gonna call you. Son ain't look like he ain't had a bath in 3 weeks, and he out here trying to stand up for Bam Adebayo and talking all of this spicy talk and all of that stuff, right? Master Splinter out there in Chicago. You know who I'm talking about. You have people like this. The Kobe Bryant fans are weird. The most emotional fan base in all of sports, LeBron fans who run around calling him my glorious king, and buy Barbie dolls, are now calling people emotional and weird. You cannot make it up, right? So as people are calling out Bam, and I said it, if you did it the right way, people wouldn't be saying this. All of these guys that are calling out Bam's 83 are not Kobe Bryant fans. Some of them are just fans of basketball. Like, yo, this is disgusting. The first 3 quarters was 100% legitimate. But what took place in that fourth quarter was a mockery of the sport. It was an abomination. And that's why people are calling it out. And one of those people that called it out is Ric Bucher. So I tuned into his channel and he was calling that out. And in the process of that, he started talking about stat patters and chasers like LeBron, and how stats can manipulate the way we view people, especially when you take into account things like longevity stats that LeBron has mastered the ability of accumulating. But before we even get into what Ric Bucher had to say, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, Prize Picks. The playoff push is heating up, tournament hoops are here, and there's no better time to make your picks on Prize Picks. Every bucket, every dime, every win means more when you're right. And here's what got me excited. Prize Picks now has team picks. So on top of all the player picks you already love, you can now pick game winners, spreads, and totals too. I've been using it and honestly have no idea why I waited so long. I made my first team pick on a basketball game the other night, and it made watching so much more fun. The best part, you can even pick who's going to cut down the Nets in a few weeks or who's winning it all this summer. All right in the same Prize Picks app. And team picks are available in 35 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Washington. If you're right on your picks, you cash in. It's that simple. Download the Prize Picks app today and pick your first game winner, spread, or total as the playoffs rolls on. And get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup when you use code CLNS. That's code CLNS to get $50 in daily fantasy lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, cool. So what we want to do is we want to play what Rick had to say here, and we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Ric Bucher.
James Harden turned foul hunting into an art form and a cottage industry. That certainly was manipulating the game for statistics, for statistical achievement. LeBron James has stayed in games to achieve some sort of statistical mark so routinely now that we're almost numb to it. The latest being the oldest player to ever achieve a triple-double. Can't remember who they were playing. I just know that the game was out of hand. There was no reason for him to be on the floor. I believe Austin Reeves ended up grabbing 2 rebounds that LeBron wanted so that he could complete the triple-double and get off the floor. The guy's staying around at age 41 just to get an extra rebound, just to say in the history books, when everybody forgets how it was done, that he was the oldest guy to get a triple-double. That is stat chasing. That is undermining the statistical achievement. And with LeBron, he loves to say that he's never cheated the game. And it seems like not only with LeBron, but a lot of people these days, every declaration is actually a confession. But Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points against the Washington Wizards has taken the absurdity of stat chasing to a whole other level. Because unlike David Robinson, who also had scoring nights of 48 and 50 that season, Bam is not a scorer. And unlike the San Antonio Spurs at that time, who were a bit of a dog and pony show with an array of colorful characters and even a more colorful Fiesta-inspired uniform, the Miami Heat have prided themselves on being buttoned up, playing the right way, etc., etc. They are one of the last teams you'd ever expect to subvert a game for the sake of achieving an individual achievement, much less a statistical one. And Eric Spoelstra is one of the last coaches you'd expect to orchestrate and celebrate the achievement the way he did. But here we are. I wonder how many people will remember where they were when Bam scored 83, only because I'd almost guarantee they were doing something other than tuning into the Heat playing the Wizards. Where were you when Bam scored 83? Is not likely to prompt the response, sitting on my couch watching the Heat take on the Wizards and running their winning streak to 6 games. Duh. There were a million reasons not to tune into the Wizards visiting the Heat, starting with there were a few far more interesting and impactful games to watch. Not a lot, but a few. Raptors and Rockets, Spurs and Celtics. I might have put even the Hawks Mavericks ahead of Heat Wizards at the start of the night.
Great. So you heard what he had to say. What are my thoughts about this? I think that the points that Rick is bringing up are very strong. I'll give you an example. If you look at the Bam 83, I think the next game he scored 20. All right, the next game he scored 20. The 83 that Bam scored puts him in a room with players he doesn't deserve to be in. To have Wilt Chamberlain and Kobe Bryant and then Bam Adebayo between them is crazy work. It's crazy work. A career 16-point per game score will now forever be remembered next to the names of Kobe Bryant and Wilt Chamberlain. A career 16-point per game score now goes down in history with those guys. So looking at that game, you could be like, oh, wow, he was that good. Was he? Is he? That was an aberration for the ages. When Kobe scored 81, it wasn't an aberration. He had a week where he had a stretch where he scored over 50 points in a row, like 50, 65, like in a row. There wasn't no like, oh, I'm going to score 60 tonight and then score 25 tomorrow. Nah. Kobe did score had 9 games in a row when he was scoring 40, and he only stopped because they were beginning to lose Shaq and the team. So when a guy like Kobe does it or Wilt Chamberlain does it, it makes sense. But when you have a guy like Bam who just got hot and had a night for his career, and we later on look and say it was 83 points, it's like, yeah, but that stat doesn't mean the same thing. That accomplishment doesn't mean the same thing that those other guys. It doesn't mean the same thing. This is the problem with stats, and that's what he was talking about with LeBron and all of that. And Rick, to be fair, he's always kind of pushed back on this LeBron propaganda, going all the way back to his FS1 days on shows with Nick Wright and Chris Brewer. He used to push back on it a lot because Nick Wright, man, no one can embellish more than Nick Wright. And Ric Bucher had always been there, kind of like the voice of reason, alongside Chris Broussard as well. But I think Rick is getting to a larger argument that we need to have. Bam scoring 81 says everything about this era, bro. You had an argument with Max Kellerman and Rich Paul when Max was talking about Jordan can average a 40-point triple-double. And Rich Paul, like, this is absurd. And Shannon Sharp, this is absurd. And Nick Wright, this is absurd. Really? We just watched the guy averaging 18, score 83 in this NBA. But that's absurd. Bam's performance exposed this era. It's having the opposite effect. What people are criticizing him for, and I got to say this about Bam, I'm surprised that Bam going at D-Wade the way that he did. I was surprised by that. Bam is Nigerian. I would have thought Bam would have had a little bit more respect. I was surprised by that. Going at D-Wade like that. Regardless of whatever you think about D-Wade, number one, he's older than you, but number two, he's way more accomplished than you and done way more for the Miami Heat than you've ever done. I was surprised by how Bam went at D-Wade. That was a shocker to me. I didn't see that one coming. I didn't see that. But anyway, these are my thoughts. Whatever you guys think, Leave your thoughts in the comments, and we catch you on the next show. I'm out. Peace.